China is preparing for Trump tariff shocks that exceed expectations. This as visiting U.S. Senator Steve Daines.
The announcement by the newly elected U.S. president to impose tariffs on long-standing trade partners set off a seismic shift in the global economic landscape, sparking a rapid and forceful response from some of the world's most influential economies. China's decision to pull the trigger on its countermeasures was an unmistakable demonstration of resolve, a declaration that its economic interests would not be compromised by what it perceived as an overreach of American economic policy. In a carefully calculated maneuver that underscored its strategic acumen, China activated a series of measures designed to blunt the impact of U.S. tariffs and signal to the world that it would not be coerced into an unfavorable trade arrangement. This decisive action resonated deeply within the region and beyond, setting the stage for a complex recalibration of international trade relationships. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. The tariffs aimed at rebalancing what the new U.S. administration viewed as an inequitable trading relationship were part of a broader ideological shift toward economic nationalism. The policies represented a dramatic departure from the previously held consensus on free trade and multilateral economic cooperation, and they were seen as emblematic of a more confrontational approach in international relations. For China, a country that has built its modern economic identity on its ability to integrate deeply with the global market while simultaneously safeguarding its national interests, the imposition of tariffs was not merely an economic adjustment, it was a challenge to its strategic autonomy. In response, Chinese policymakers mobilized their considerable resources, leveraging both state apparatus and market mechanisms to launch a counteroffensive that was as much about protecting domestic industries as it was about reasserting China's position on the world stage. The reaction was immediate and comprehensive. Chinese authorities set in motion a range of economic instruments intended to counterbalance the disruptive effects of U.S. tariffs. These measures included recalibrating trade policies, providing targeted support to key industries, and exploring alternative markets to mitigate dependency on American goods and services. The move was emblematic of a broader philosophy that prizes strategic flexibility over short-term economic gain. By swiftly enacting these countermeasures, China not only shielded its economy from the shock of the new tariffs, but also sent a clear message to international investors and trading partners. The era of unquestioned U.S. economic leadership was coming to an end. The unfolding events took an even more intriguing turn when Japan, a nation that had traditionally maintained a careful balancing act between its security alliance with the United States and its significant economic ties with China, decided to join China in its response. Japan's decision to align with China in resisting U.S. tariffs was both bold and unexpected, reflecting a profound rethinking of its strategic priorities in a rapidly changing global environment. For decades, Japan had been a staunch advocate of a rules-based international order, yet the recent turn of events compelled its leaders to reassess whether adherence to old alliances would serve its long-term economic interests. The move to join China in countering U.S. tariffs signaled that Japan, too, was unwilling to be constrained by what it perceived as unilateral coercion and was ready to assert its economic sovereignty in the face of mounting external pressure. This coordinated response between China and Japan was underpinned by a confluence of shared concerns and mutual strategic interests. Both nations had grown increasingly aware that their economies were vulnerable to abrupt shifts in U.S. trade policy, and both recognized that a cooperative stance would provide a more effective shield against the unpredictability of unilateral economic actions. The alliance, though not formalized in the manner of a military pact, represented a pragmatic alignment of interests that had developed out of necessity. It was a recognition that in a world where economic decisions could have far-reaching geopolitical implications, the benefits of coordinated action far outweighed the risks associated with isolation. Japan's participation lent additional weight to the countermeasures, reinforcing the notion that resistance to U.S. tariffs was not solely a Chinese prerogative, but a broader regional concern. At the heart of the matter was the realization that the global trading system was undergoing a transformation, one that was being driven by a shift in the balance of power. The imposition of tariffs by the United States rather than reasserting its dominance, inadvertently revealed the vulnerabilities inherent in a system that had long been predicated on a unipolar economic order. The move by China, bolstered by Japan's unexpected cooperation, highlighted the emerging multipolarity of global trade, where power was increasingly distributed among several key players rather than concentrated in the hands of one superpower. In this context, the actions taken by China and Japan were not merely reactive, but were emblematic of a broader recalibration of economic priorities and strategic alliances. The implications of this coordinated counter-tariff stance are profound. On one level, it underscores the limitations of unilateral economic policies in an interconnected global economy. In a system where supply chains span continents and where the fortunes of nations are increasingly intertwined, any attempt by one country to unilaterally reshape trade relationships is likely to provoke a swift and robust response from those who feel threatened. The decision by China to activate its countermeasures, and Japan's subsequent endorsement of these actions, served as a potent reminder that economic power is not absolute, but is contingent upon the willingness and ability of nations to collaborate in the face of common challenges. The strategic calculus behind these moves was complex. For China, the decision to pull the trigger on its countermeasures was rooted in a long-standing commitment to maintaining its economic ascendancy while protecting its domestic industries. By swiftly implementing a range of economic policies designed to neutralize the impact of U.S. tariffs, China was able to shield its economy from immediate disruptions while simultaneously laying the groundwork for a more resilient long-term strategy. This approach was informed by years of experience in navigating the challenges of a rapidly evolving global market where economic interdependence coexists with fierce competition. The calculated nature of China's response reflected a sophisticated understanding of both the immediate economic threats posed by the tariffs and the broader geopolitical dynamics at play. Japan's decision to join China in this response was similarly multifaceted. As a nation that has traditionally been deeply integrated into the global economy, Japan was acutely aware of the risks associated with any significant disruption to established trade relationships. Yet it also recognized that the imposition of tariffs by a key trading partner such as the United States had the potential to unsettle the delicate balance that had long underpinned the regional economic order. By aligning itself with China, Japan was not only seeking to protect its own economic interests, but was also sending a broader message about the need for a more equitable approach to international trade. The move was indicative of a growing sentiment among many nations that the rules of the game needed to be reset in a manner that would allow for a more balanced distribution of economic benefits and risks. The coordinated countermeasures also had significant implications for the broader global economic order. They signaled a move away from a world dominated by unilateral actions and towards a landscape in which economic power is exercised collectively. This shift has the potential to redefine the contours of international trade, prompting other nations to reassess their own positions in relation to major economic players. The willingness of China and Japan to challenge U.S. tariffs head-on underscored the fact that established powers could no longer assume that their economic decisions would be accepted without contest. Instead, the events served as a catalyst for a more dynamic and, in many ways, more unpredictable global economic environment where alliances are fluid and strategic partnerships are continually evolving. Economic theory suggests that when major players in the global market take coordinated action, the resulting dynamics can lead to a rebalancing of power that reshapes long-standing economic relationships. In the current scenario, the actions of China and Japan are a clear illustration of this principle at work. Their decision to counter U.S. tariffs was driven by an acute awareness of the vulnerabilities inherent in a system that is overly dependent on a single economic powerhouse. By taking matters into their own hands, these nations not only defended their immediate interests, but also signaled their readiness to participate in the creation of a more multipolar economic order. This transformation is likely to have a lasting impact on the way international trade is conducted, as countries become increasingly aware of the need to diversify their economic relationships and reduce reliance on any one partner. At the same time, the unfolding situation highlights the delicate interplay between economic policy and national security. In an era where the lines between the two are increasingly blurred, The decision by China and Japan to implement countermeasures in response to U.S. tariffs reflects a broader recognition that economic stability is a cornerstone of national strength. The move was as much about safeguarding domestic industries and protecting jobs as it was about asserting sovereignty in the face of external pressure. In this sense, the actions taken by both nations can be seen as a form of strategic self-defense, a preemptive measure designed to ensure that their economies remain robust and capable of withstanding future challenges. The event has also prompted a reevaluation of traditional alliances and the nature of global partnerships. For decades, Japan had been viewed as a loyal ally of the United States, its economic policies closely aligned with American interests. However, the decision to join China in a coordinated response to U.S. tariffs reflects a significant shift in Japan's strategic outlook. It represents a willingness to embrace a more independent course of action, one that prioritizes national interests over historical alliances. This realignment is emblematic of a broader trend among many nations that are increasingly inclined to pursue policies that reflect the realities of a changing global landscape rather than the legacies of past relationships. The broader implications of this move extend into the realm of international diplomacy, where economic actions are becoming ever more intertwined with political strategy. The decision by China and Japan to counter U.S. tariffs in a coordinated manner is a vivid demonstration of the power of economic policy as an instrument of statecraft. It underscores the fact that in today's globalized world, economic decisions are rarely confined to the realm of commerce. They have significant political ramifications that can alter the balance of power among nations. This convergence of economic and political imperatives has the potential to reshape diplomatic engagements, compelling nations to adopt a more nuanced approach to international relations, one that recognizes the inherent interdependence of economic stability and political sovereignty. The strategic response also underscores the importance of foresight and adaptability in economic policymaking. The move by China and Japan was not a reaction born of panic, but rather the culmination of years of planning and anticipation of potential challenges. It was a proactive step that acknowledged the limitations of relying on established trade relationships in an era marked by rapid change and uncertainty. By taking decisive action, these nations demonstrated that they were not prepared to allow external pressures to dictate the terms of their economic engagement. Instead, they chose to assert control over their own destinies, laying the groundwork for a future in which economic policy would be driven by strategic necessity rather than reactive measures. This willingness to chart an independent course has far-reaching implications for the international community. It serves as a potent reminder that the global economic system is not static but is continually evolving in response to new challenges and opportunities. The coordinated countermeasures adopted by China and Japan are a testament to the transformative potential of well-conceived economic strategies, illustrating that even in the face of formidable obstacles, nations can find ways to safeguard their interests while paving the way for a more balanced and resilient global order. The actions taken in response to U.S. tariffs are likely to be studied extensively by policymakers and analysts around the world. They offer a compelling case study in the effective use of economic tools to counter external pressures, providing valuable insights into the ways in which coordinated national strategies can reshape the dynamics of international trade. As countries grapple with the uncertainties of an increasingly fragmented global economic landscape, the example set by China and Japan is poised to influence future policy decisions. It highlights the necessity of a proactive rather than reactive approach to economic governance, one that anticipates potential threats and takes decisive measures to mitigate them before they can inflict lasting damage. The event also invites reflection on the broader ideological shifts that are underway in global trade. The imposition of tariffs by the United States represented an assertion of economic power that paradoxically undermined the very principles of free trade and open markets that had underpinned decades of economic growth. In response, the countermeasures adopted by China and Japan can be viewed as a reaffirmation of a commitment to a more balanced form of international economic engagement, one that recognizes the need for cooperation and mutual respect in an era characterized by rapid technological change and shifting geopolitical alliances. This new paradigm challenges the traditional narrative of dominance and submission, instead emphasizing the importance of strategic partnerships that are built on shared interests rather than coercion. The coordinated response by China and Japan has the potential to redefine the rules of the game in international trade. It signals a departure from a world where unilateral decisions by a single economic giant can dictate the terms of global commerce, ushering in an era where the collective weight of regional alliances can serve as a formidable counterbalance. The decision to resist U.S. tariffs through a unified front reflects a deeper recognition of the vulnerabilities inherent in an interconnected economic system, vulnerabilities that can be mitigated only through cooperation and the willingness to embrace new models of engagement that are better suited to the complexities of the modern world. In many respects, the events surrounding the imposition of tariffs and the subsequent countermeasures by China and Japan encapsulate the essence of contemporary economic and political strategy. They illustrate how nations can harness the power of economic policy to not only protect their domestic interests, but also to shape the broader contours of international relations. The boldness of the move, coupled with its strategic sophistication, underscores the importance of adaptability in a world where traditional paradigms are being upended by new realities. It is a clear demonstration that economic resilience and strategic foresight are indispensable tools in the pursuit of national sovereignty and global influence. The coordinated actions of China and Japan stand as a powerful testament to the evolving nature of global power dynamics. Their response to U.S. tariffs was not merely an isolated incident, but a reflection of a broader trend toward a more multipolar world, where economic power is dispersed among several influential players. This shift challenges the conventional wisdom that has long held sway in international economic policy, and suggests that the future of global trade will be shaped by a complex interplay of forces that extend well beyond the traditional confines of bilateral relations. Ultimately, the decision by China to pull the trigger on its countermeasures, joined by Japan's equally resolute stance, is emblematic of a turning point in the history of international trade. It is a moment that encapsulates the tension between the desire for economic independence and the realities of a highly interconnected world. The events that unfolded serve as a stark reminder that in today's global economy, no nation can afford to act in isolation. Instead, the challenges of the modern era demand a collaborative approach that acknowledges the interdependence of all players involved. The actions taken by China and Japan highlight the need for nations to be both vigilant and proactive in defending their interests, even if it means challenging the established order. As the world continues to navigate the turbulent waters of global trade and economic competition, the coordinated response to U.S. tariffs offers valuable lessons in the power of strategic planning and the importance of adaptability. It demonstrates that the ability to pivot quickly in response to external pressures is not only a matter of economic survival, but also a key factor in shaping the geopolitical landscape of the future. The measures implemented by China and Japan are a reflection of a broader commitment to a new vision of international trade, one in which the balance of power is continually reassessed and realigned to better reflect the realities of a dynamic and ever-changing global economy. In the final analysis, the events surrounding the announcement of U.S. tariffs and the subsequent countermeasures by China and Japan represent a watershed moment in international economic relations. They are a powerful illustration of the ways in which national interests, when pursued with determination and strategic insight, can redefine the parameters of global engagement. The decision to stand up to what was seen as economic coercion was a bold affirmation of sovereignty, and a clear signal that the age of unchallenged economic dominance is drawing to a close. This decisive act of resistance is poised to leave an indelible mark on the future of global trade, inspiring other nations to reconsider their own strategic priorities and embrace a more balanced, cooperative approach in the face of external pressures. The complex interplay of economic imperatives and political strategy that underpin this response serves as a reminder that in a world marked by rapid change, the only constant is the need to adapt. The coordinated measures taken by China and Japan not only defied the immediate challenges posed by U.S. tariffs, but also set the stage for a broader rethinking of how nations approach international trade. They underscored the importance of leveraging economic tools to achieve strategic objectives and demonstrated that when nations unite in pursuit of common interests, they can forge a path toward a more stable and equitable global order. This landmark episode in economic diplomacy is a testament to the evolving nature of power in the modern world. It illustrates that the effective use of economic policy can serve as a potent instrument of national strategy, capable of reshaping the balance of power and redefining the rules of international engagement. The bold actions taken by China and Japan in response to U.S. tariffs are not just a reaction to a specific policy, but a clear manifestation of a broader strategic vision, one that emphasizes resilience, cooperation, and the unyielding pursuit of national interests in an increasingly complex global arena. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on China and Japan hitting back after Trump's new tariffs? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.